Hello, everybody. So listen, we are here on Book Nation so late, but we are here. Still wonderful, still going to get with you and talk today. We are dealing, today we're dealing with grief. And, I know it's really something I didn't really want to just kind of hit and quit. But we have to because we have to make way for Sunday Throwbacks with Larry Whitfield and Lewis Boyd. And so right now, if you are listening to the show, you have to go to Glenn Cannon on Facebook so that you can view the show as well. I'm going to try to share it on my Facebook page. Don't see it at the moment, but we'll get to that. So I wanted to talk about grief, but it's such a vast topic because not everyone handles it the same. And so I want to say to my family that I send my family all my love and condolences in the passing of my aunt, Theola Govan, who recently passed away, and we had her services on yesterday. And so I was very glad to see how beautifully and wonderfully her grandchildren and her only child, her daughter, put her away in such a classy and wonderful way that really was very indicative of the person that she was. And so rest in peace, rest in heaven, to my aunt. Some know, many may not, but she used to be a babysitter for me. And while I was there at her home, I told her that one day I wanted to be a writer. And she said, well, in order to be a great writer, you first need to be a great reader. And so she would just bombard me with books after books after books. Even when I went home, she would be like, I want you to be done with those books. So when you come back, we got a whole nother set of books. And she was one of the first people that I ever knew of that had a grand piano in her home. And so we got real sophisticated with it, where I would read out loud and she would play the piano as I read. And I thought that was just like so cool that we were able to do that. And so she encouraged me in my writing and in my reading and my development in those areas. And so I'm so excited to have experienced her as my aunt, as a friend, as a confidant. And so, rest in peace, Auntie Theola Govan Humphrey. So one of the other people that I wanted to discuss was a young man named Diallo. Diallo was my cousin, and I was the oldest of June Scott's grandkids. And I think Diallo came after my sister. So Diallo might have been the third grandchild. Yeah, I think Diallo's the third grandchild. But anyway, when he first learned to read, Diallo ran home from school, busted in the house. Sonya, I know how to read. I was like, okay, baby, that's so good. He had to be about 4 or 5. And so he said, so can I read to you? I said, sure. I'm thinking this was going to be a cute little moment, a one-time thing. So he read his first book, which was Dun, 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 dun. Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. His second book was The Cat in the Hat. So on his first day of reading, he read Green Eggs and Ham and then immediately followed that up with The Cat in the Hat. So I promise you, all night long, all I heard was this Green Eggs and Ham. And not I, said the cat. From the other book. And so Diallo, unfortunately, at a very young age, died in a very tragic fire that happened at my grandmother's household, which took the lives of 7 people, 2 being adults, 5 being children, which Diallo was one of them. And so whenever somebody would bring up this book or any Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham or The Cat in the Hat, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I don't want to look at that book. Or it was just difficult for me in dealing with my grief for him and the other family members. I didn't never want my niece or none of the kids to read these books, and I wouldn't even buy them Dr. Seuss. But for whatever reason, they would get it from school because it just brought such a hard memory for me in dealing with my grief of him. And so later, as time has gone on, I still couldn't read the book, but it was like I could hear it. If someone else, if a little kid had it and they wanted to read it to me, I could deal with it more. Well, just recently, I think it was the other day, yesterday or the day before Friday, I purchased green eggs and ham because I said instead of being so deep in mourning of him and the pain of losing him, why don't I celebrate the fact that I even had some time with him? Why don't I celebrate the fact that he was an amazing spirit, that, I got to be a part of so many of his first and got to have a wonderful relationship with him. And so instead of me looking at Dr. Seuss books as, oh my God, that reminds me of Diallo in such a painful way, I can use it as it could be a beautiful thing. And now, because on this week I was chosen to do story time with some young people who pretty much was around Diallo's age when he learned to read, I decided I'm going to read Green Eggs and Ham to the kids and really have a cute little discussion because I want to celebrate his life and not just be in a place of, just such pain. So I don't really have enough time to go ahead and read it to you guys, but I appreciate that growth because it took a long time to get there. And I'm really so grateful to my relationship with God that I could even have that moment for myself. So in dealing with grief, I come to learn that, there are things that will remind you of the person that has passed away, especially during this whole pandemic. I've run into so many men who for the first time have had to go grocery shopping because they don't have their wife anymore. Or I've seen people in stores just kind of in a daze, like my life is so different. I have to go home to an empty house. So sometimes people will just go to the mall just to be there so that they don't have to be in that void that they feel. And so I want to discuss that. April, I would love for you to discuss with me. I know I got 18 minutes. There is a book. Lord, they done took my book off of here. There's a book called The Beauty of What Remains. And it is by Steve Letter. Steve Letter wrote a book, The Beauty of What Remains, kind of getting you to reflect on what still is there. The memories, all that kind of stuff that you don't immediately go to when you're dealing with the harshness of the grief. It's like, I don't want to remember those things because it is going to keep making me think I won't have new memories. They're not here. So I just want to have it. I just want it to all go away. You know what I'm saying? So have you ever experienced grief in that place?
Yes, I experienced that with my, I was engaged at a young age, and my fiance died of Hodgkin's disease, which is a cancer, and it kept me in a numb state for a long time because, and I had set up in my mind, because my fiance was such a wonderful person and such a loving person, that in my mind, I felt that I was never going to love a person as much or as deep as I loved him. And I thought that there was never going to be a person that would love me as greatly as he loved me. And so with that, I kind of set the pace for me to then go into a marriage thinking that this is what it is. And I just felt that is what it is. That although I didn't feel the same way about my husband that I did with my fiance that passed, I felt that this is what it is, and that this is how I'm probably going to feel the rest of my life.
So has that changed?
Yes, it changed.
How did that change for you?
Other people, I allowed them to enter into my world, and it proved that they can't take the place of the person that you have lost, but they could make a new space in your heart, which
Okay.
is a lot of people don't understand that they can't take the place, but they can make a new space in your heart for them, which I found that out.
Okay. So in this book, The Beauty of What Remains, he says, a piece of the story says, it was the beginning of a 12-year journey toward ordination, at the end of which the 15-year-old in me was sure I would spend my time making camp as great for my future congregation kids as it was for me. I would study and teach Talmud. I would write inspiring sermons, read and write wonderful books, and ponder the great mystery that is life itself. Standing in front of that autopsy and embalming table was my first indication that I was heading for something else too. It left me quietly, secretly, and afraid. So he's talking about his father's passing and how it just totally changed his life for a span of time where it was like he was paralyzed. Like, how do I move past this? And do I even want to dream anymore? Do I want to work hard anymore? What would be the point? And he went into a whole place until finally he decided to embrace the memories and decided to embrace all that he had been gifted in the process of having his father, and honoring him by letting that stuff, those gifts in him, matriculate and, be executed in his time span and give it as a gift to somebody else. So I thought that was very beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful thing when you get past those stages of grief. Because in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's minds, they try to bypass those stages of grief, thinking that if I just act like, I'm good. Even when you're in your personal time, if I act like I'm good, then I'm good. But I found out that those stages of grief is going to happen regardless.
Right.
Regardless, those stages are going to happen. But then once they happen, after you go through the stages, then you're at a point where you can appreciate and you can enjoy and you can love that you had those opportunities to be with that person, that you certain things that they do or they did, certain perfumes and colognes that they wore. You're no longer crying over it. You're now saying, he used to smell like this.
Right.
And you have that laughter. You have that joy where I could have had it sooner. But I wouldn't allow myself to grieve. I wouldn't allow myself to even go through the process.
Yeah, and so those stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I know when my dad passed away, we were dropping my niece off because she was about 2, I think, at the time. No, maybe 4, 5, something like that. She was little. And so we were dropping her off at her grandmother's house, and we were trying to rush to get to the hospital because my dad said, I'm not going to be here long, but I'm going to hold on till y'all get here to come see me. So we're rushing like, we got to get there. And so my mom called like, hey, don't go to the hospital. And we're like, why? We got to get there. She was like, because he's gone. So my brother, his initial reaction was just to run. And I'm like, don't chase him. Just let him run. Just, leave him alone. But I immediately took on, I got to get to my grandma. I got to be a superhero and make sure everybody's okay. And so instead of me stopping and saying, I'm sad too, maybe I need to be running right along with my brother, I said, nope, I got to get my brother and I got to go see my grandma. So we went to my grandmother's house. And my grandmother, I knew she was going to be distraught. My grandmother had him when she was 13. So pretty much they grew up together. That was like her best friend. And so I'm like, oh, I got to get to her. I got to make sure she okay. Blah, blah, blah. And she just looked at me and said, I need you, right? I was like, yeah, I know. I'm a superhero. I'm big and bad. I'm going to take care of everything. So she said, I need you to go to the hospital, get his belongings, and all of that. So I'm thinking I'm just going to the hospital to go get his money, his keys, or, whatever, his wallet, whatever he had. They said, oh, no, you got to view the body. I said, did nobody say I got to do that? Who want to do that? So they said, nope, we got to do you and the nurse going to do a whole little walkthrough because we need that bed. So I was like, I was like numb. Like, no, my grandma didn't say that I was gonna have to do all of that. So I go into the room. His the guy that was rooming with him said, "You must be Sonya," and I said, "Why would you say that?" He said, "Cause I hear a story every 5-10 minutes. Sonya this, Sonya that, Sonya, Sonya, Sonya." And he said he was holding on because he kept saying, "I got to see Sonya one more time." So I said, "Thank you for telling me that. That makes this so much worse." So the nurse pops in and she was like, "Are you ready? Because we need this bed." I was like, okay, nobody told me I was going to have to be dealing with all this. I said, "Ma'am, you're going to need to give me a minute." And so the guy in the room was like, "If you don't get the bloop, bloop, bloop out of here," and she got to be in here with her daddy. And the lady was like, "Well, I'll be back." Like, just so nasty. So I just sat there in front of him. I was like just numb. And so when we did view his body and whatever, it was like I just had a out of body experience. Like, I gotta do this, gotta do it for my grandma, da da da. Even at the funeral, I was just like, I gotta do this, do this, do that. It took 4 years, and I was sitting at a light, and it was like, oh my God, your daddy died, and I'm sitting there at the light just falling to pieces, people blowing their horn, like, what is going on? And finally this man came and he was just like, "Are you okay? Are you he doing all this on my window, are you okay?" So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I've never had this. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. He said, "Pull over." And I'm just stunned. So I just took off. I'm like, I just gotta go home because I don't know what this is and why. I know why it is, but I don't know now. What do I do? So when dealing with that, it's like, what do you do? Like, what I realized, I was just about to say that. What I realized, you have to just
let it happen.
Let it happen.
Let it happen. When my grandmother died, it's so funny that grief will happen suddenly.
Right.
Grief will even happen before they pass, because the doctor was coming to me because my grandmother had signed off, if anything happens to her, I'm supposed to be the one to make the decision. And so the doctor said to me, "Put a balloon in your grandma's stomach. Blood is still coming from everywhere. Can't contain the bleeding. This and 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 this." And he said to me, "You know what I'm saying to you?"
Right.
And I said, "In spite of what you're saying to me, my grandmother shall live."
Right.
And the doctor said, "Oh, okay," and walked away. With that denial,
He probably was like, "You one of those." Okay.
Right. And that denial was happening even before my grandmother had. Even though the doctor was preparing me and preparing our family, that this is it. Your grandmother is passing. And so she bled so bad that they couldn't even let us go into her room. They had to pull the carpets, because at that time, hospital DMC had carpet on the thing. They had to pull the carpet up, and they had to actually move her into another room in order for us to view her and clean her up. In order for us to view her. But that grieving process, if you allow it, will happen right then and there, even before. And you just gotta allow it. You just gotta, I understand how you feel, because some of us are always the super women, the super people, the super, I even remember my aunt, her sister, came late, and my grandmother had passed, and we all was crying and everything. And so then I waited for the funeral home to come get my grandmother, and everybody had gone. And when they went to take my grandmother to the funeral home, here comes my aunt, and my aunt, she says, "I want to see my sister. I want to see my sister." And I said, "Well, she's already gone to the funeral home." But that next day, my aunt just insisted on going to see my grandmother. And I remember my mother looked like, "I can't do it." My aunt said, "I can't do it."
So they look like, well, we know who gonna just do it.
We know who was going to do it. And so, and they looked at me, and it hurt me so because even the funeral home, Swanson's, they family, she said to me, April, I haven't prepared your grandmother's body yet. So are you sure you want to go and see her? And her sister was like, oh, yes, I need to see her. I need to see her. And I remember Linda Swanson said, this is going to hurt you. Are you sure? And my aunt was like, oh, yes, I need to see her. And I remember, and it's embedded in my mind, I remember seeing my grandmother on the slab, and they had just put the white sheet across her. Mm-hmm. And I remember that vision of her being on the slab.
And then it plays back in your mind.
It plays back on your mind. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to myself, why in the hell am I here? Right. I said that to myself. Why am I here? Because like you, I was the chosen one. I was the one.
Bring your mic up.
But I've learned now that I don't have to be the one.
Right. Oh. I'm so happy to not be the one. I don't. You don't have to choose me.
I don't have to be the one. I don't have to be the one. And I can gracefully say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with no explanation. I don't have to even tell you why I said no.
We say no. And so with that, that grief, as I stated, happens suddenly, but you just gotta let it happen.
Yeah.
Because the more you suppress it, the more you just holding out for the inevitable.
And that's why I wasn't able to really work very well in the hospital, because the doctor, I'd be in the room with the doctors, and they'll say, Sonya, we have a certain way we handle telling the family. So I'm like, I've been through this before. I know how the doctor come out. They might ask a few questions or da-da-da-da-da. So I'm like, I'm good. They said, well, Sonya, you just stand, because you're in training, so you just stand with us. We are one. Don't give no explanations or whatever. Leave that to the doctor, because you could say something that might trigger a thought on something. And, a lot of people be looking for malpractice or whatever. So they said, just be quiet. We get out there. The man passed away. We get out there, and the doctor said, this is what we did. Da 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 da. Well, this was the situation, and we had to stop the bleeding here. And da da da. I said, they was like, he gone. I was like, yes. Oh my
God. No, you shouldn't work in the hospital.
The doctor was like, I know he wanted to cuss me out, but I couldn't handle it. I was just like, they was like,
that's not your problem.
Sonya. So the lady like, he gone.
How long did you last at that job? I wonder.
To tell the truth. Well, I was in a hospital for about 3 years, but in that particular position.
Yeah, in that position.
I'm going to say about 3 days.
They hurried and moved you to another position.
I'm going to say I was there about three whole days.
And they hurried up and moved you.
So, yeah.
They told you, don't come in this week, and then before you knew it, you had another position.
Well, because I thought I could be good with, patient advocacy and, all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. Because I went in one person's room, and they was like, the doctor say, he not going to make it. I'm like, yes, he is, in the name of Jesus. And they was like.
My grandmother, I was like, I don't care what you're saying.
It was like, Sonya,
right.
You need to really sit down and figure out what you're supposed to be doing with your life.
He looked at me crazy when I said, I don't care what you're saying. He's telling me that blood is coming out of everywhere, out of my grandmother's nose. Her stomach burst. They put a balloon. The balloon is not working.
And you was gonna speak life.
And he said to me, because I guess I had this look, do you understand what I am saying?
Right.
And I said,
don't
do
it.
What you're saying.
Right.
My grandmother is going to live. And he said, oh, okay.
Right, okay. You one of those. I'm going to tell you something really funny that I've never told nobody, because I know how crazy it sounds. Mm-hmm. And we're going to probably have to do a part 2 to grief, because I know, especially after this pandemic. Like, you listen, it's like, hey, Auntie so-and-so passed. Then you get another call, Johnny passed. And then you go on Facebook, and some people don't understand etiquette. You wake up to grandma passed away, and it's like, can we get a call first or something? So you just go through so many things. And then this is a crazy story, and we got to get out here for Sunday Throwbacks. So we're going to visit this because there's a lot more to unpack here. So in the hospital, as I was still there.
For 3 days.
In that department. I was there 3 days.
For 3 days.
So I was doing, what was I doing? Transport. So in transport, I figured I would just be taking flowers to people's room and, whatever like that. Or, taking a patient to room, stuff like that. But they had me take some stuff down in the morgue. So I'm like,
that person was getting flowers?
No, it was some, I don't even know what was on that cart. But I had to take the cart down to the morgue and give it to the people down there. And so it might have been some makeup or something. I don't know what it was, but it was a cart. So I had to take it down there to give to them. And so when I got in here, I saw the body. I am the scariest person. But this day I was silly. So I said, I wonder if I lay hands on him and pray, will he get up?
I'm shaking my head.
That's why I never told nobody the story. Because
you want to be Jesus.
Because I was a believer.
Did you call Lazarus?
So listen. No, I didn't call Lazarus, but I laid my hand like over him, and I started speaking like, "Get up, rise up, rise up."
Anybody in there?
No, it was just me.
Thank you, God.
So this is how I learned about how the after death shocks or whatever that your body can go through. His toe moved. When I tell you I got the hell up out of there, okay? I would not go in that morgue for nothing. And my mind was racing like, was that God? Or what was happening? So the doctor was like, no, the body, after it goes through the separation and the blood and all that stuff, you can have that one last like gasp or shock. And so I was like, man, that man toe moved. So I thought like, it was going to work. Like, he was about to rise up.
So did you form a healing line?
I scared myself so bad. I told my auntie, she was like, you might have power. I was like, man, I can't work in a hospital because it was just too much for me. Yeah, I was in pieces. That was not my calling.
Raise the dead.
That was not my calling.
Morgue.
Then when his toe moved,
working,
man, I got scared. Like, oh Lord, like God, I was just playing.
Let that be somebody like Pastor P. She'll be getting the shot.
Man, Pastor P probably would have had that man walking around. But listen, so we're gonna get out of here, and then next week I'll tell you about Bob. I think I called you about Bob that planned his own repast.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. You have to tell that one.
So, yeah, I'll tell y'all. Well, it won't be next week because we won't be here next week. We are going to be honoring such a wonderful man at the Vagina Monologues brought by Sean P. Williams right at the International Institute 1111 East Kirby in Detroit, Michigan. You could still get your tickets, I believe. So you could check out Sean P. on Facebook. You can... we'll be posting it as well, so you can actually, check in with us. And so we're going to be honoring Mr. Glenn Cannon with the Lifetime Achievement Award. He is the CEO of Vent Radio, as well the founder of Street Noise, and just he got so many things. Spendy All Indie, all that kind of stuff.
All of that.
So we're going to be honoring him. So Empower Sunday will not air all the shows on next week. However, Sunday Throwbacks with Larry Whitfield and Lewis Boyd will be in the place, and we will be going live. I do believe it's going to be on the Glenn Cannon feed on YouTube. So we will be talking more about it so you all can be a part. And I won't be here March 6th as well. So Book Nation won't be here. We won't be back until March 13th. So watch the show, previous shows, stay connected with us. And that's it. So we're going to get ready for Sunday Throwbacks with Larry Whitfield, his guest, and who? Lewis Boyd. And so thank you all for tuning in to Vent Radio Empower Sundays. We truly do appreciate you. And we're out of here.
Take it wherever they want it to go. Darkness cannot drive out of darkness.
You gonna try to raise the dead.